My sister found the tapes in the attic the day after we laid Dad to rest. They were tucked inside a beat-up cardboard box, a little nest of a dozen or so cassettes. Dad's idea of a time capsule, I guess. Before I headed back home, she pressed 3 of them into my hands. She'd sealed them in a Ziploc bag, like she was afraid the past might leak out or spoil if it touched the air. "I think Dad meant these for you," she said, sounding far away, even though she was right in front of me. He kept them separate from the rest. I didn't make much of it then. Probably just home videos, birthdays, vacations, the usual, a nostalgia kit. Another one of Dad's tidy little archives. 2 weeks later, rainy Wednesday, sky the color of dishwater, I finally pulled them out. I'd had a few drinks and let myself slip into that soft, sentimental mood where old songs sound better and you think about calling people you haven't called in years. They were high 8 tapes from the late 90s, the kind you used with those compact camcorders. Each had a neat handwritten label in this tidy, elegant script. Springfield Trip. 93. First Steps. 1994. Xmas 95. And under every label in thick black marker, someone had scratched my name. Nate. The handwriting did something to me. It felt familiar without belonging to anyone I could picture. Like remembering a dream and swearing it happened to you, even though you know it didn't. I dug out the old camcorder Dad bought me way back when and wrestled a mess of mismatched cords into the TV. I fed in the oldest tape and hit play. The screen shuddered, a wash of static. Then, there I was, a baby version of me, cradled in the arms of a woman I didn't recognize. We were standing in a big open field. Summer, by the look of the light. The woman had curly brown hair, oversized sunglasses, and this laughing voice that seemed to come from somewhere deep and warm. She looked happy, in love even, but the way her eyes lifted told me it wasn't me she loved like that. It was whoever was holding the camera. "That's it, sweetheart," a man's voice said from behind the lens, amused and gentle. "Get a close-up of those chubby cheeks." She lifted me toward the camera and winked like we were in on a joke together. "That's our boy," she said. Then she glanced past the lens at something to the side, and her smile dipped just a little. The camera swung around. Out near the tree line, at the far end of the field, someone was standing there. A single figure in dark clothes, too far to make out a face, not moving, just watching. "Do you see that?" the woman asked. The camcorder zoomed in a touch. The figure didn't budge. "It's probably just someone out for a walk," the man said, but his voice dropped, like he didn't quite buy it himself. She didn't look away. "That's the same man from yesterday, Frank." The camera jolted, a quick, clumsy motion, and then the footage snapped to static. Hard cut. Nothing. I rewound and watched it again. And again. Each time that cold, crawling feeling climbed up the back of my neck and settled there, like fingers lacing together. The next tape was labeled First Steps. Same woman, same man, same baby, me. But something didn't line up. The house on the screen wasn't the house I grew up in. The wallpaper didn't match any wall I remembered. The couch was the wrong color, like someone had told the story of my childhood living room to a stranger who tried their best and got close, but not quite. I wobbled forward, laughing that breathless baby laugh, and toppled into the arms of that same unknown woman. She kissed my cheek. "You did it, my big boy." In the background, through the window, out by the edge of the yard, beyond the fence, the figure was there again. Still, staring. I hit pause. Rewound. Then went frame by frame, one click at a time. Like the right moment might finally explain itself if I gave it enough chances. And there it was. Dark clothes, long black hair, skin so pale it almost glowed in the glare. The face was hard to make out, but somehow I knew it. The guy filming slipped into the frame for a second. Broad shoulders, square jaw, a pair of glasses that made him look bookish and kind. Not my dad, or at least not the man I spent my life calling father. He kissed the woman on the cheek, and the two of them, with their kid, me, looked like a picture-perfect family you'd find in an old catalog. Then I put in the third tape, Xmas 95. This one opened warm and cozy, like a memory you wish you could live inside. The living room glowed with garland and balled-up wrapping paper. A slightly crooked artificial tree twinkled in the corner. The radio hummed some tinny holiday tune. The woman, my real mother, I realized, wore a red turtleneck and no makeup, just that big, bright joy in her eyes. She handed a present to little me, a toddler in green footy pajamas. Frank, that was the name I'd heard earlier, smiled from the carpet. He adjusted the camcorder on a tripod and flashed a thumbs up. "All right, Nate," he said. "Let's see what Santa brought you." He stood and knelt beside me to help with the paper. The unattended camera sat a little crooked, and the angle happened to catch the hallway beside the living room. Then, a shift. Movement. A tall figure stepped into view. Jet black hair, dark clothes, a posture that made my stomach clench. Too stiff. Wrong in a way I felt more than understood. He stood half lit by the tree, eyes fixed straight ahead. It was the man I knew as Dad, the one who raised me. But on this tape, he didn't feel like a dad at all. My mother gasped first. "Frank," she whispered. "Frank, he's here." Paper rustled. Frank moved quick, getting between the stranger and his family. "You need to leave," he shouted. "This is our house. What do you want?" Baby me started crying, and the man in dark clothes took a step forward. In his hand, a flash of metal, some kind of heavy tool. Then the room fell into confusion. A shout. A crash. The camera slid off the table, thunked to the floor, and came to rest half under the couch, tilted low at the carpet. It kept recording, a steady little eye that couldn't look away. There were screams, frantic words, the scatter of glass somewhere out of view. My own small wail cut through it all. A body toppled into the edge of the frame. Frank, he was hurt, breathing rough, one arm caught under him. He tried to push up, panicked, but couldn't get steady. A heavy boot stepped past him. The man. You could hear the struggle more than see it. Scuffling, grunts, furniture bumping, a picture frame rattling on a wall. The kind of sounds that tell you what's happening without showing it. Then a hard, final thud that left the room ringing with silence and the soft tick of the Christmas lights. The picture flickered, went to static, then popped back in. A different house, a different Christmas. New wallpaper, a slimmer tree, quieter air, like a blanket had been pulled over the world. I was older, maybe 3, smiling and busy with a wrapped box. A toy dinosaur, battery-powered. Pressed the back, and it roared. I pressed it, and it did, and I grinned the way only a kid can. From behind the camera, a voice. "Do you like it?" my father asked. I nodded, happy as could be, squeezing the toy like it was a new friend. If you weren't listening close, you'd miss it. The faint sound of a woman crying somewhere in the house. Pleading, muffled by a wall or a shut door. "Please, please don't hurt my baby." Footsteps followed. A door opened. The same voice from behind the camera barked something down the hall, or maybe down the stairs. I didn't flinch. I pressed the button again. The dinosaur roared, and I laughed. The video ended. I sat there a long time after the screen went dark. The camcorder still hummed, but I felt stuck in place. My chest felt hollow, my hands cold. I kept seeing Frank, hearing my mother's voice, thinking about the man who took me and taught me to call him Dad. I kept thinking about the toy dinosaur, too. It's still in a box in my closet. It was my favorite when I was a kid. And something else finally clicked, something I hadn't noticed until now. Across all those tapes, there weren't any other kids, not my siblings, not anyone, just me. I'm going to call my sister. I need to tell her what I saw. I need answers. I need this feeling to loosen its grip. And I need to know what's on the rest of those tapes. I called my sister with my thumb hovering, like the call button might bite. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said. Her voice sounded thin, like it had been stretched across a long day. "I watched them," I said. "All 3. Silence. Then a small breath. "I figured you would." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "About what's on them?" "I didn't know," she said fast, almost tripping over the words. "I swear, Nate, I only watched the first few minutes of one tape. Birthday candles. You in a paper hat. I couldn't..." She went quiet again. "What did you see?" I told her enough to make my throat feel tight. Not the sharp edges, just the shapes of things. The stranger in the yard, the warm living room. The way everything felt like a memory. that belonged to somebody else. When I got to the part about the last tape, the different house, the toy dinosaur, she made a sound I couldn't place. "What?" I asked. "The dinosaur," she said. "Do you remember the little switch on the bottom? The one Dad taped over so it wouldn't go off in the night?" I did. I used to peel at that tape with my fingernail until it rolled up like a tiny rug. "He taped it the wrong way," she said. "Backwards. I asked him once why he did that, and he just said, 'Old habit.' I thought it was nothing. But now," she stopped. "Nate, can you come over tomorrow? I kept the rest of the tapes. I didn't feel right mailing them. There's more here. A box of papers, too, ledgers, receipts, stuff that doesn't look like anything until you start reading the dates." "Tomorrow," I said. "I'll drive up early." We hung up, and the apartment felt loud with its little noises. The fridge, the heater, the soft tick under the TV that never stopped. I set the camcorder on the table and stared at the Ziploc like it might start breathing. The dinosaur came back to me, its rubbery grin, the way it roared on a delay if you pressed the button too fast. I went to the closet and pulled down the old plastic bin with the cracked lid. It smelled like dust and childhood. Under a tangle of action figures and a faded Little League cap was the green toy, still smiling, like it knew something. I set it on the coffee table and flipped it over. There it was, the old tape on the switch, yellowed at the edges. I didn't peel it back. I just held the dinosaur and tried to remember who gave it to me, and all I could hear was that voice from behind the camera asking if I liked it. The lights in the apartment dipped once, twice, like they were trying to blink. A quick gust rattled the balcony door. I told myself it was the weather and the age of the building. I told myself a lot. I packed an overnight bag, slid the 3 tapes back into the Ziploc, and put the dinosaur in last. I don't know why. It felt like I should bring it back to where it came from. When I turned in for the night, I left the bag by the door and the camcorder on the table. I lay there with the kind of tired that keeps you awake. Sometime after midnight, just before sleep found me, I heard it, soft, from the living room, a click, then a little whir, like something winding up, then a small clipped sound that was almost a growl if you wanted to hear it that way. I got up and stood in the doorway to the living room. The dinosaur sat where I'd left it, calm and green. The camcorder's little red light pulsed, as if it were breathing. I told myself I was being dramatic and went back to bed. When the alarm went off, the apartment felt normal again. I grabbed coffee, grabbed the bag, and drove north, the gray morning lifting into a pale blue. The further I got, the more familiar the highway felt, like it remembered me, even if I didn't remember it. My sister's place sat on a quiet street, with old trees that leaned together like they were sharing secrets. She met me at the door, in sweats and a hoodie, hair up, eyes tired but focused. "In the kitchen," she said. "Everything's in the kitchen." On the table were the rest of the tapes, neat in rows, each with a careful label. There was a second Ziploc, thicker, filled with folded notes and receipts, and a small black notebook with a broken elastic band. I set my bag down and pulled out the dinosaur. She looked at it, then at me. "You brought it," she said. "Felt wrong to leave it," I said. She nodded in a way that said yes. That makes sense, even if it shouldn't. We started with the papers, a receipt for a storage unit, paid in cash, a hardware store stub with a line item circled, heavy-duty box cutter, a small card with a phone number and the word Springfield written in tidy block letters. The dates ran like a string through them all, late 94 into 96, the years that lived in my head like fog. The black notebook held the strangest things. Not quite a diary, not exactly a ledger. Short entries no longer than a sentence. Deck 22, drove by the house. Lights on. Deck 24, tree and window. He wears glasses. Deck 26, heard the baby laugh. My sister read them out loud and kept glancing at me like the words might hit me too hard if they sat on the table by themselves. "I don't understand," she said. "Who wrote this?" I ran a thumb over a page where the pen had pressed harder. The handwriting was tight and controlled, all angles. "It's not Dad's," I said. Saying it out loud made my mouth dry. We moved the notebook aside and looked at the tapes. 12 left. The labels traced a little map of years. Springfield Trip 2. Halloween. Pumpkin Patch. Dentist. Red sweater. Last day. Box. The words meant everything and nothing. Which one? My sister asked. Not Christmas, I said. Not yet. Something small. We picked dentist. It sounded harmless. We set up the old camcorder in her living room, just like I'd done the night before. She drew the curtains like the daylight might glare at the truth. The tape started with a parking lot. Cars lined up, the camera low and unsteady. A sign swung into view. West Side Dental, white letters on blue. The door swung open, and there I was, small and bundled, hopping off the curb. The woman, my mother, held my hand. A man in a brown jacket followed a few steps behind with the camera. He sounded cheerful. Big day, buddy, he said. Brave face. Inside, the camera got bored, just lingered on the fish tank and a stack of magazines. Then, a flicker at the glass caught my eye. My own reflection, but not mine, alone. Behind me in the reflection for a second, so fast I almost missed it, was a tall shape in dark clothes, standing too close for anyone to overlook in real life. When the camera turned, nobody was there. My sister hit pause. We both leaned in. It's a reflection, she said, as if naming it might tame it. It's just a reflection. We let it play. The rest of the visit was dull on purpose. Stickers, a plastic coin from a toy machine, me babbling about a shark on the fish tank. Then the door again, the stretch of sidewalk back to the car, and the man in the brown jacket lifting me into a booster seat and making a pretend drum roll as he clicked the belt. Home, he said. Hot chocolate. The tape ended with a hiccup and a blur. We both exhaled at the same time. It felt good to find a piece of life where everybody got to leave the building okay. Another, my sister said. We chose red sweater. The tape opened on a little backyard under winter light, the grass flat and stubborn. I was in a sweater the color of ripe apples, a knit pattern that looked homemade. The woman held my elbows and swung me around, both of us laughing. The man we called Frank waved from the porch, camera steady, in the far corner of the yard, beyond a fence that had seen better days. A patch of bare trees swayed. For 3 minutes, nothing strange happened at all. It was almost a relief to be bored. Then the camera did a small, jittery zoom, just enough to bring the fence line into sharper focus. Between two trunks, a sliver of black. Not a person. A space where one could be. A place where a person-shaped absence might stand. Do you see it? My sister asked, but she already knew I did. The camera didn't go any closer. The woman tugged me inside by the sleeves, and Frank followed, and the backyard stayed on the screen for a few seconds longer than it needed to. Like the camcorder couldn't decide whether to look away, the tape ended. My sister rubbed her arms like she'd walked through a draft. I keep thinking about how quiet it is in these, she said. How the rooms don't have any extra noises. Like whoever is filming wanted it that way. Like the house was listening, I said. She nodded. We took a break, made tea. Neither of us wanted coffee for some reason. The kettle hissed and clicked, and for a moment, the kitchen felt like a kitchen should feel. Steam. 2 mugs. The normal clatter of spoons. That's storage receipt, I said. The unit number. Did you notice the zip code? She nodded. It's here. 10 minutes, maybe. We stared at each other over the rims of our cups, and I knew we were both thinking the same thing. Let's go, she said. In daylight. I tucked the notebook into my bag, along with the storage receipt and the dinosaur. My sister put the tapes back in their rows and slid them into the cabinet under the TV. We drove with the windows cracked, the cold air clearing out the house scent from our clothes. The storage place looked like every storage place. Long rows of metal doors, each with a number, each with a story nobody asked to hear. The manager sat behind glass and slid the clipboard through a slot. Unit C-17, my sister said, holding up the receipt. The manager checked a screen. Paid through the end of the year, he said. Same person's been paying since '96. Auto pay, no emails on file. Old account. Y'all got a key? My sister held up a small brass key on a ring. Found it taped under the notebook's back cover, she said. Her voice had that steady tone she used when she was trying not to spook a horse. The manager buzzed us through. Unit C-17 sat at the end, where the building's shadow cut the light in a clean line. The padlock turned smooth, like it had been used last week. The roll-up door made that steady rattling sound that always makes me think of summer. Inside, the space smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old cardboard. There were 3 plastic totes, a metal filing cabinet, and a narrow wooden crate with a rope handle. No furniture, no mystery trunks, nothing that screamed secret, just neat. We started with the crate. Inside, wrapped in brown paper, were more tapes. 20, maybe 30, all labeled in that same tidy script. Some names we recognized, some that meant nothing. Sea glass, night car, piano, first snow, knock. My sister touched the one that said knock and pulled her hand back like it was warm. Later, she said, let's not start with the one that sounds like it wants to be scary. We opened the filing cabinet. It held folders with tabs like utilities, insurance, photos, duplicates. In the bottom drawer, tucked behind a stack of manila envelopes, we found a small plastic bag with a hospital bracelet inside. The name was smudged by time, but the date wasn't. 1993, my birthday. I didn't know what to feel, so I stood very still and let the feeling pick me. A slow, careful dread, like something heavy was being lowered toward the floor. Look, my sister said. She had a photo in her hands, a Polaroid pinned to a sheet of paper with 2 pieces of tape. It showed a living room at night. Not ours. Not the one from Christmas. A different place. On the coffee table sat a small green dinosaur. There wasn't a person in the frame, but the angle felt like it came from someone standing halfway in the hall halfway out. On the back, in that same tight handwriting, was a single line. He laughs every time. We didn't take the photo. We didn't take anything right then. We just closed the drawers and put the tapes back and rolled the door down, gentle as we could, like we were tucking the unit in. Back at my sister's house, the late afternoon light made everything look honest. We chose one tape from the storage unit, Sea Glass, because the name sounded like a vacation, and we needed something that wasn't a hallway or a fence line. We set the camcorder up again and sat close on the couch. Like kids, the tape opened on a beach. Windy day, white caps, a kid's blue bucket halfway full of shells. I ran in and out of frame, holding up pieces of glass the size of my fingernail, shouting about treasures. The woman laughed and told me to put the sharp ones in the grown-up bucket. The camera kept a respectful distance, like a friend who knew not to ruin a moment by stepping too close. For a long time, it was just that. Waves, little feet, the thunk of a pail. Then the camera tilted down and caught a reflection in the wet sand, a long, thin shape standing by a dune fence, far back. No face, no motion, a presence, more than a person. The tide came up and erased it. The tape clicked to a stop. I don't think this is all about the videos, I said. My sister didn't answer. She was looking past me at the window, where the glass had gone from gold to blue in the last few minutes. We should eat, she said, soft. Then we can pick one more. We made grilled cheese and burned one, and laughed like we were trying to sound normal and almost pulled it off. After, we cleared the plates and chose a tape at random. Night Car. The name made my shoulders lift. The footage was shaky streetlights and windshield wipers. The camera rode in the passenger seat, and the car moved through a neighborhood that could have been anywhere. Small houses, big trees, porches with swings. A slow drive. No talking, no music. After a minute, the car stopped. The camera zoomed through a gap in the hedge, and for a second, we saw a sliver of a living room.